If your head joint fit has been feeling a little bit loose lately, then I have a quick DIY fix for you today that doesn't involve Scotch tape or a trip to the repair tech that could cost hundreds of dollars. Also, if your head joint used to fit great but is feeling a little bit tight lately, I might have a solution for that as well. So let's get to it. Hi everybody, I'm Lance Suzuki. I'm a professional flutist and teacher, and my goal is to inform and inspire your flute practice. In this tips and tricks series, I'm giving you quick advice on a variety of topics relating to maintaining and playing your flute at its best. So if you're interested in seeing more flute content like this, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. This episode is all about your head joint and how it fits into the body of the flute. And this is very important because the head joint is where the air first starts to spin and vibrate. How the head joint fits directly affects how these vibrations are transferred to the rest of the instrument, and thus how resonant your instrument is as a whole. If your head joint is too loose, it could potentially not be transferring the full vibration and resonance to the rest of the instrument. Also, if it's too tight, it could potentially be dampening the sound. This is why the fit is so important. Now, there are a few reasons why a head joint could be too loose. First of all, if you're trying to fit a new head joint to a flute body that you already have, and maybe the fit's just not exact. Secondly, in my case, when I got this flute, the head joint felt great going in. However, I was a little bit concerned that there might have been a tiny bit of slippage as I played during performance and rehearsal. So I just wanted to make my head joint a little bit more secure. My DIY fix for a loose flute head joint involves this Mylar tape. Now, the benefits of using this tape over something like a Scotch tape is that, number one, it's a lot thinner, so it allows you to have a lot more control and be more precise with the fit. And number two, it has this metal color so that it blends in well with your head joint and is not very noticeable. In the past, and as far as I know, you could only get this stuff in Japan, in certain specialty stationery stores. So you either had to have someone go to Japan and bring a roll back for you, or maybe you could find it in some specialty flute repair shops. However, I was recently looking on Amazon and found this, which looks very similar, right? And so I wanted to order it and try it to see if it worked just as well. And although this is totally non-scientific, I think that they are very comparable. They seem to be about the same thickness of tape, and of course they look very similar in color. And I was able to try it out on my own flute and confirm that it does work just as well. In case you're wondering, this Mylar tape does come in silver as well for silver flutes, and I'm going to link to both the gold and the silver tapes on Amazon down in the description of this video. So let's get to the installation. Other than the Mylar tape, the only supplies you'll need for this project are something to cut it with, such as a scissors or a utility blade, and optionally a small piece of wax paper that'll help you to handle the Mylar tape a little bit easier. When working with head joints, it's always a good idea to remove rings and any other jewelry beforehand. To get started, moisten the end of a Q-tip with some rubbing alcohol. Use the rubbing alcohol to clean the portion of the head joint where you're going to be applying the Mylar tape. Also, if your head joint used to fit well but has been feeling a little bit tight lately, this is a great method for cleaning out any debris that might have accumulated on your head joint. As you can see, it looks like I got a little bit of dirt off of this head joint. Be sure to also clean the receiving end of the flute body. While we're at it, let's go ahead and clean the foot joint connections as well. However, make sure that alcohol never touches the pad surfaces. It looks like that needed it. Next, take a small piece of wax paper and fold it over on itself. Adhere a small section of your Mylar tape to the wax paper. Then use a sharp utility blade or pair of scissors to cut off the desired portion. The wax paper makes it much easier for you to separate your cutting from the rest of the roll. Next, apply your Mylar tape cutting to the head joint and use your finger to smooth it over and remove any air bubbles. The final step is to test the fit of your head joint into the body of the flute. Now, it should glide in pretty easily, but stay in place where you leave it. And if you're finding that you need to struggle to push it in, or if you find that the tape is pushing off, then it's too tight and you either need to figure out a different placement or cut a thinner strip. As I mentioned before, if the head joint fit is too tight, it can dampen or constrict the vibrations of the instrument, and we definitely don't want that. So the fit should be snug, but you should still be able to move it freely with one hand and without really struggling or having to use a lot of force. This process definitely involves a lot of trial and error, so be patient with yourself and don't worry if it takes you a few tries to get a good fit. After all, it's a lot easier and cheaper than going to a repair shop, and especially during times of COVID, it's great when we can find small things like this to be able to do by ourselves at home. When applied well, I've had Mylar tape that has stayed on for months or even years without moving. Finally, I'd like to note that unlike taking your head joint to a shop and getting it stretched out to fit, this process is incredibly easy and safe to reverse. All you have to do is just peel the tape off, and if there's a little bit of adhesive left over, simply use some rubbing alcohol on a Q-tip or maybe some Goo Gone. Well, that's it for today's tips and tricks episode, and I hope you've gotten some value out of this video. If so, or if you're planning to try out this tip on your own flute, please let me know in the comments and by giving this video a like. Don't forget that all of the tools I used today are linked below in the description box. Also, to see more informational and inspirational flute content like this, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.